The air in the gilded steer smelled of aged mahogany, truffle oil, and the distinct, metallic scent of old money. It was the kind of place where the menus didn't have prices, and the waiters glided across the floor like ghosts in tuxedos. It was also the last place I expected to be humiliated. I adjusted the strap of my dress, a navy blue silk number that I knew flattered my figure, or at least, I thought it did until about 5 minutes ago. Across the table, Brad sat flanked by two men I'd never met, Leonard and Pablo. They were nursing tumblers of amber whiskey, laughing a little too loudly for the hushed atmosphere of the restaurant. Brad didn't look at me. He looked through me. "You're late," he said, swirling the ice in his glass. He didn't stand up to greet me. He didn't smile. "I'm sorry," I said, sliding into the leather booth, trying to ignore the heat rising in my cheeks. Traffic on I-95 was a nightmare, and I had to finish that audit report for work, Brad interrupted, rolling his eyes at his friends. "See what I mean, guys? Scarlett here thinks she runs Wall Street. Babe, nobody cares about your little spreadsheets." Leonard snickered into his drink. Pablo just stared at me with a look that was somewhere between pity and amusement. I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. We had been together for 2 years. 2 years of me supporting his entrepreneurial ventures, 2 years of paying the rent while he found himself, 2 years of believing that underneath the bravado was a sweet man who just needed a break. But tonight, there was something different in his eyes. A coldness. A cruelty I hadn't seen before. "I thought this was a celebration," I said quietly, reaching for the menu. "For your promotion." Brad snatched the menu out of my hand. "We already ordered. Appetizers are coming. Wagyu sliders and the seafood tower." "Oh," I said, looking at the table. There was already a bottle of wine open, a Chateau Margaux. I knew enough about wine to know that bottle cost more than my first car. "That's extravagant." "Don't be a buzzkill, Scarlett," Brad snapped. "God, why do you always have to act like such a mom? It's embarrassing." The waiter arrived with the seafood tower, a monstrous display of lobster tails, oysters, and shrimp on crushed ice. Brad dug in immediately, cracking a crab leg with a violence that made me flinch. "So," Leonard said, wiping butter off his chin. "Brad tells us you're in accounting." "I'm a senior auditor," I corrected gently. "Actually, I was just promoted to CFO of a mid-sized firm, but she counts beans," Brad interrupted, waving a shrimp in my face. "She's the fun police. Literally. You know, I tried to get her to invest in crypto last year. Refused. No vision. I prefer stable investments," I said, my voice steady, though my hands were trembling under the table. "Stable means boring," Brad said. He turned to Pablo. "She's 34, you know. Biological clock is ticking so loud it keeps me up at night." The table went silent. The air felt sucked out of the booth. I stared at him, stunned. "Brad, what are you doing?" He put down his fork and finally looked me in the eye. There was no love there. Only contempt. "You know what? I'm done pretending," he said, his voice loud enough that the couple at the next table turned to look. "This isn't working. I'm about to level up in life. Big time. This merger I'm leading. It's going to put me in a different tax bracket. And frankly, Scarlett, you don't fit the image anymore." My heart hammered against my ribs. The image. "Look at you," he gestured vaguely at my dress, my hair, my face. "You're plain. You're aging. I need someone on my arm who turns heads. Someone young. Someone who doesn't nag me about budgets." I felt like I had been slapped. Tears pricked my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. "Not here. Not in front of these strangers. You're breaking up with me?" I whispered. "Here. Now? I'm doing you a favor," he scoffed. "Cutting you loose before you get any older and drier." He stood up. Leonard and Pablo scrambled to follow him, looking awkwardly at their half-eaten food. "Where are you going?" I asked, panic rising. "We haven't even had the main course. We have places to be." "Better places." Brad adjusted his jacket. He looked down at me, a smirk playing on his lips. "You can handle this, right? Ms. Independent Woman." He threw a napkin onto his plate. It landed right in the cocktail sauce. "Brad, please," I said, my voice cracking. "Don't do this." He leaned in close, his breath smelling of expensive wine and rot. Then he said it. The sentence that would replay in my head for the next 48 hours. "A girl like you should be grateful I even dated you this long," he sneered, loud enough for the waiter to hear. "You're not exactly a prize, Scarlett. You were a placeholder." And then, they walked out. Just like that. Laughing as they pushed through the heavy oak doors. I sat there, frozen. The restaurant was buzzing, but all I could hear was the ringing in my ears. Placeholder. Grateful. The waiter, a young man named Marco, approached the table cautiously. He looked mortified on my behalf. "Ma'am," he asked softly. "Is everything okay?" I took a deep breath, smoothing the napkin on my lap. I was Scarlett Davis. I managed million-dollar audits. I did not crumble in steakhouses. "I'm fine, Marco," I said, though my voice sounded hollow. "Could I get the check, please?" He hesitated. "Are you sure?" "I can speak to the manager." "Just the check." He nodded and walked away. When he returned, he placed the black leather folder on the table. I opened it. My eyes widened. The appetizers. The Chateau Margaux. 3 rounds of top-shelf scotch for the boys before I had even arrived. Total, $852.40. I stared at the number. It wasn't just a bill, it was a physical manifestation of 2 years of being used. I reached into my purse for my wallet, my fingers brushing against the credit card Brad had insisted I get him as an authorized user for emergencies. I sat there alone, the untouched lobster staring back at me, realizing that the man I loved wasn't just a jerk. He was a thief of my time, my dignity, and apparently, my bank account. I handed Marco my card, my personal platinum card, not the joint one Brad and I pretended to share expenses on. Marco took it with both hands, his eyes full of a kindness that made my throat tight. "I'll take care of this immediately, Ms. Davis," he said. While he was gone, I forced myself to drink a glass of water. My hands were shaking. The shock was starting to wear off, replaced by a cold, creeping nausea. I looked around the restaurant. The couple next to me was studiously avoiding eye contact. A woman across the aisle looked at me and mouthed, "I'm so sorry." I gave her a weak nod. Marco returned faster than I expected. He leaned in close, his voice lowered to a whisper. "Ma'am, the payment went through," he said, handing me the receipt to sign. "But there's something you should know." "What is it?" "The gentleman." "Mr. Brad," Marco hesitated. "Before you arrived, he tried to pay for the first round of drinks with a different card. A blue Chase Sapphire." My stomach dropped. That was the authorized user card attached to my account. The one I gave him strictly for car emergencies or groceries. "It was declined," Marco said gently. "Insufficient funds." The world tilted on its axis. Insufficient funds. That card had a $20,000 limit. And I paid the balance off every month. There was no way it should be maxed out unless. "Thank you, Marco," I said, my voice remarkably steady. I added a 25% tip to the bill. It wasn't his fault my life was imploding. "Do you need a cab?" he offered. "No. I need to go home." The drive back to our apartment, my apartment, legally, was a blur. I kept waiting for the tears to come, the sobbing, the screaming. But they didn't. Instead, a strange numbness took over. It was the same feeling I got when I found a discrepancy in a company's ledger. The feeling that something didn't add up, and I needed to find the error. When I unlocked the door, the silence of the apartment hit me like a physical blow. It was dark. I flipped on the lights. "Brad?" I called out of habit. Silence. I walked into the living room. It felt emptier. I scanned the space. My eyes landed on the entertainment center. The PlayStation 5 I had bought him for Christmas was gone. I walked to the kitchen. The expensive espresso machine, gone. I ran to the bedroom. His closet door was open. His clothes were still there, mostly the cheap stuff. But his good suits, the ones I paid for, gone. His watch collection, gone. He hadn't just dumped me. He had raided me. I sat on the edge of the bed, clutching my phone. I dialed his number. Straight to voicemail. I texted him. "Me, you took the espresso machine." "Really?" "Nothing." I checked my banking app. I tried to log in to check the credit card statement for the card Marco mentioned. Access denied. Password incorrect. My breath hitched. He had changed the password. He had locked me out of my own secondary account. I called the bank immediately, navigating through the automated hell of customer service menus. Finally, a human voice. "I'm sorry, Ms. Davis," the representative said. "For security reasons, since the password was changed an hour ago via the authorized user's email verification, we have to send a code to the phone number on file ending in 8892. "Brad's number." "That's my ex-boyfriend," I said, fighting to keep the hysteria out of my voice. "He stole the account access. I am the primary account holder." "I understand, but without the verification code, you'll need to come into a branch with 2 forms of ID tomorrow morning to reset access." I hung up, defeated. I sat there in the dark, the $852 receipt crumbling in my fist. I thought about the last 2 years. The way he would gaslight me when I asked about money. "Babe, you make 3 times what I do, why are you so stingy?" The way he isolated me from my friends. "Vanessa is just jealous of us, Scarlett." At 2 a.m., my phone buzzed. A text from Brad. "Brad, I'm staying at a hotel. Don't try to find me. I took some things that were rightfully mine considering the emotional labor I put into this relationship. You need to work on yourself. Don't contact me until you're ready to apologize for embarrassing me tonight." I stared at the screen. The audacity was breathtaking. He wanted me to apologize. For being dumped. For paying his bill. I started to type a furious reply. "You are a thief and a liar, and I want my keys back." But my thumb hovered over the send button. "A girl like you should be grateful." That phrase echoed again. He thought I was weak. He thought I was just some desperate, aging woman who would beg for him to come back. If I screamed, if I cried, if I demanded answers, I was just playing into his narrative. The crazy ex. The clingy mom. I deleted the text. I didn't reply. I walked to the bathroom and looked at myself in the mirror. My mascara was smudged, but my eyes were clear. "You are a CFO," I told my reflection. "You find missing money for a living. You catch liars for a living." I wasn't going to cry. I was going to conduct an audit. The next morning, I didn't wake up to sunlight. I woke up to the screeching ringtone assigned to Linda Miller, Brad's mother. I groaned, rolling over and squinting at the clock. 7:30 a.m. On a Saturday. My first instinct was to ignore it. We were broken up. I didn't have to deal with her passive-aggressive comments about my weight or my career obsession anymore. But then I remembered, they don't know. Brad hadn't told them. He was too much of a coward, or maybe he was spinning a story where he was the victim. I cleared my throat and swiped answer. Hello, Linda. Scarlett. Her voice was like a cheese grater on my nerves. High-pitched, demanding, and overly sweet in a fake, southern way. I've been calling Brad all morning. Is he still asleep? You know how my baby boy needs his rest, but we have so much to do for the party. The party. Brad's 37th birthday party. It was next Saturday at their house. He's not here right now, I said carefully. Well, tell him to call his mother, she huffed. Anyway, I'm calling you about the gift. You know, the surprise. My blood ran cold. The surprise. 3 months ago, in a moment of weakness and manipulated love, I had agreed to help Brad with a down payment on a new BMW. He had cried, actually cried tears, about how his old car was embarrassing for a man of his stature, and how it was holding him back from getting clients. I had promised to put down $15,000. He told his parents I was buying him the whole car. Right, I said, sitting up in bed. The car. Brad sent me the link to the one he wants at the dealership, Linda prattled on. It's the charcoal gray one. He said you guys are picking it up Friday. You need to make sure it has the red leather interior, Scarlett. Don't cheap out on the interior like you did with those curtains for your apartment. I closed my eyes. Don't cheap out. I paid her mortgage last month when she forgot to transfer funds. Linda, I started, ready to tell her everything. Your son dumped me. He called me ugly. He stole my PlayStation. I don't think, oh. Before I forget, she interrupted. I just posted the sweetest photo on Facebook. You have to go like it. It's of me and Tiffany. Tiffany was Brad's younger sister, a 28-year-old influencer, who lived in their basement. Okay, I said, confused. I'll check it. Brad is such a good provider, Linda cooed. He really knows how to treat the women in his life. Unlike his father. Anyway, check the photo. Bye. She hung up. I sat there, phone in hand. Good provider? Brad hadn't paid for a dinner date since 2023. Curiosity, that dangerous thing, got the better of me. I opened Facebook. There it was, at the top of my feed. A photo of Linda and Tiffany at what looked like a spa day. Caption, spa day with my princess Tiffany. Thank you to my amazing son Brad for treating us. And look at this early birthday gift he gave me. #boymom #blessed. In the photo, Linda was beaming. But my eyes didn't focus on her face. They focused on her neck. Resting on her collarbone was a delicate, platinum chain with a solitaire diamond pendant. A vintage cut. I gasped, dropping the phone on the duvet. I knew that necklace. I knew the tiny chip on the clasp. I knew the way the diamond caught the light. It was my grandmother's necklace. I scrambled off the bed and ran to my jewelry box. I tore through the drawers. I hadn't worn it in a few weeks because I was saving it for a special occasion. I opened the velvet box in the back where I kept it hidden. Empty. My knees gave out. I sank onto the floor. That necklace wasn't just jewelry. It was the only thing I had left of my Nana. It was worth maybe $3,000 financially, but emotionally. It was priceless. Brad hadn't just used my credit card. He had gone into my jewelry box, stolen my grandmother's heirloom, and given it to his mother as a gift from himself. And Linda, she knew. She had to know. She had seen me wear that necklace at Christmas. She had complimented it. She had asked if it was real. Something inside me broke. But it wasn't a break that led to tears. It was a clean, sharp snap. Like a dry twig stepping on a heavy boot. The sadness evaporated. The confusion vanished. The why me pity party ended right there on my bedroom carpet. I stood up. I walked into the bathroom and splashed cold water on my face. I looked at the woman in the mirror. She didn't look ugly or old. She looked dangerous. I was done being the victim. I was done being the ATM. I walked back to the phone. I opened Linda's contact. I didn't block her. Instead, I sent a text. Me, just saw the photo, Linda. The necklace looks stunning on you. I'm so excited for the party next week. Brad and I have a huge announcement to make. And don't worry about the car, it's going to be everything he deserves. I hit send. They wanted a provider. They wanted a show. I would give them a show. I wasn't going to cancel the party. I was going to attend. And I was going to bring receipts. Monday morning, I dressed for war. I put on my sharpest tailored blazer, Armani, charcoal gray, and the stilettos that made me 3 inches taller. I slicked my hair back into a severe, professional bun. No soft curls today. I drove to the financial district but not to my office. I went to Brad's building. He worked, or claimed to work, at Meridian Dynamics, a subsidiary of a massive conglomerate. He had told everyone for 2 years that he was the regional marketing director. I walked into the lobby, carrying a small cardboard box. In it, I had placed his toothbrush, a pair of dirty socks, and his framed diploma from a university I was pretty sure he never graduated from. It was a prop. My real goal was information. I approached the reception desk. "Hi, I'm here to drop something off for Brad Miller," I said, flashing my corporate smile. The receptionist, a young girl popping gum, looked at her list. "Miller? Which department?" "Marketing." "He's the director," I said. She frowned. "We don't have a marketing director named Miller. Our director is Ms. Chong." My smile tightened. "Oh? Maybe he goes by Bradley. He's been here 2 years." She typed for a moment. "I have a Bradley Miller in the intern pool." "No, wait, he's listed as temporary administrative support. He works in the basement archives." Temporary administrative support. The man who critiqued my career, who told me I lacked vision, was a temp filing papers in a basement. "I see," I said, forcing my voice to remain calm. "Is he in today?" "He hasn't swiped in yet. But his friend Liam is here. He usually picks up Brad's mail." "Can I see Liam?" 5 minutes later, a guy walked into the lobby. I recognized him immediately. Liam. He had come to one of our barbecues. Quiet, shy, always looked a bit downtrodden. Brad always made fun of him, calling him the gopher. Liam stopped when he saw me. He looked terrified. He actually checked over his shoulder before approaching. "Scarlett," he whispered. "What are you doing here? If Brad sees you." "Brad isn't here, Liam," I said. "Can we talk?" "Outside." We stepped out onto the busy sidewalk. Liam looked like he was about to vomit. "Did he tell you?" Liam asked. "Tell me what?" That you're stalking him." I blinked. "Excuse me." Liam rubbed the back of his neck. "Brad told everyone in the office this morning. He sent an email to HR. He said his crazy, older ex-girlfriend is obsessed with him and might show up to cause a scene. He said you're mentally unstable and that he's trying to get a restraining order." I laughed. It was a harsh, barking sound. "He said I'm unstable." "Liam, he stole my grandmother's necklace. He maxed out my credit cards." Liam's eyes widened. He told us he bought that necklace with his bonus. The bonus for the merger project. There is no merger project, is there, Liam? Liam sighed, his shoulders slumping. "No. There's no project. Brad sorts mail and gets coffee. But. He hesitated. He tells his parents he runs the place. He even makes me take photos of him in the boardroom when the bosses are gone. Why do you help him? I asked. Liam looked down at his shoes. Because he has dirt on me. Or he says he does. Last year, some petty cash went missing. Brad convinced me that the security cameras made it look like I did it, and he deleted the footage to save me. He says if I don't back up his stories, he'll turn me in. I looked at this man, another victim of Brad's narcissistic web. Liam, I said softly. Did you take the money? No. I swear. I believe you, I said. Because Brad is a thief. And I can prove it. I stepped closer to him. I need a favor, Liam. I'm not going to cause a scene today. But on Saturday, at his birthday party, I need you to be there. And I need you to bring something for me. I can't, he shook his head. He'll destroy me. No, he won't, I said, my voice dropping to a lethal whisper. Because I know something Brad doesn't know. Meridian Dynamics. The company you work for. It was acquired this morning. Liam looked confused. Acquired by who? By Vanguard Holdings, I said. My firm. I watched the realization dawn on his face. Wait, Liam stammered. You mean? I mean that as of 9 a.m. this morning, I am technically the chief financial officer of the parent company that owns this building. I have full access to security logs, financial audits, and personnel files. I smiled, and this time, it was genuine. I can pull that security footage from last year, Liam. I can clear your name. And I can fire Brad Miller before he even finishes his coffee. Liam stared at me with awe. But I'm not going to fire him yet, I added. I want to do it properly. Are you in? Liam straightened his spine. For the first time, he didn't look like a gopher. He looked like a man ready for justice. What do you need me to do? Leaving the office, I felt a surge of adrenaline, but I needed more than just power. I needed evidence. Hard, undeniable proof. I needed what the internet calls receipts. I called in the cavalry. First, Chloe. My best friend since college and a divorce attorney who could smell a hidden asset, or debt, from 3 states away. Second, Sarah. My contact at the bank who owed me a favor for helping her with her tax audit last year. We met at my apartment that evening. It turned into a war room. Okay, Chloe said, cracking her knuckles over her laptop. Let's look at the damage. I had managed to regain access to my authorized user account by physically going to the bank branch that afternoon. I printed out 2 years of statements. This is bad, Scarlett, Sarah said, highlighting a row of transactions. Look at this. The Sapphire Lounge. Hotel W, Luxury Escapes. These dates they correspond to the weekends he told you he was at leadership conferences. I looked at the dates. May 12th, August 4th, May 12th, I murmured. He said he was in Chicago for a seminar. He sent me a picture of the bean. Chloe tapped keys furiously. Reverse image search says that picture was taken from a travel blog in 2019. On May 12th, his credit card shows charges at a local bed and breakfast 2 hours away. Occupancy, 2 adults. I felt a wave of nausea, but I pushed it down. Cheating. Of course. It was almost cliché. But here's the kicker, Sarah said. He didn't just use the authorized card. He opened 3 other cards in your name. What? I choked out. Identity theft, honey, Sarah said grimly. He used your social security number. He opened a Discover card, an Amex, and a line of credit at a furniture store. The furniture store? I asked. Yeah. Looks like he bought a bedroom set delivered to an address in Jersey City. Chloe looked up the address. Tiffany Miller. His sister. I stared at the paper. He had bought his sister furniture using my identity, racking up debt in my name, while telling me I was stingy for not buying him a car. Total debt? I asked, bracing myself. Sarah calculated. Including the authorized card and the fraudulent ones, you're looking at $52,000. Plus interest. $52,000. That was a down payment on a house. That was my retirement contribution for 2 years. I can get him for fraud, Chloe said, her eyes narrowing. We can file a police report right now. Have him arrested tonight. No, I said instantly. Chloe and Sarah looked at me, shocked. Scarlett, he stole 50 grand. You can't let him get away with it. I'm not letting him get away with it, I said, picking up the stack of papers. But if I arrest him now, he'll play the victim. He'll tell his parents I framed him. He'll tell the world I'm the crazy ex who planted evidence. I know how his family works. They enable him. They'll bail him out, and he'll never learn. I looked at the date on the calendar. Saturday was 4 days away. I want to do this in front of an audience, I said. I want his mother to see who he really is. I want his father to know where the money came from. I want to destroy his reputation so thoroughly that he can never lie to another woman again. You want to go to the party, Chloe realized. I'm going to the party, I confirmed. And I need you to draft a legal document, Chloe. A repayment agreement. And a confession. He'll never sign it, Chloe argued. He will, I said, when he realizes the alternative is prison. I spent the rest of the night organizing. I bought a beautiful, oversized gift box. The kind you put a luxury handbag in. Inside, I didn't put a car key. I put the credit card statements, highlighted in neon yellow. I put the photos of him at the hotels with the timestamp. I put the police report for the stolen necklace, filled out but not yet filed. And I put a printout of his temporary intern status. I wrapped it in silver paper with a massive red bow. Then, I texted Linda again. Me, the surprise is ready. It's wrapped and everything. I can't wait to see the look on his face. Linda, finally. Make sure you wear something nice, Scarlett. Brad invited some very important people. Don't embarrass him. I smiled at my phone. Oh, Linda. You have no idea. Wednesday and Thursday were a masterclass in acting. Brad texted me twice, fishing for information. Brad, Mom says you're coming on Saturday. I hope you're not coming to make a scene. If you apologize to the guys, maybe we can talk about a probationary period for us getting back together. A probationary period. The ego of this man was visible from space. I replied, I just want to make things right, Brad. I realized you were right. I need to support your dreams. I have a gift for you that will change everything. He didn't reply, but I knew he read it. I knew he was salivating. He thought he had won. He thought he had broken me down until I was desperate to buy his love back with a BMW. On Friday, I made one final call. To Mr. Harrison. Mr. Harrison was the CEO of Vanguard Holdings. He was a terrifying man to most, stern, 60 years old, worth billions. But 3 years ago, when I was a junior auditor, I had caught a mistake in his personal tax filings that saved him $2 million. He had liked me ever since. Scarlett, his voice boomed over the phone. To what do I owe the pleasure? I hear you're officially part of the family now. Yes, Mr. Harrison. I'm looking forward to starting as CFO. But I actually have a strange personal request. Ask. There's an employee at Meridian, the subsidiary we just acquired. Bradley Miller. Never heard of him. Exactly. He claims to be the regional director. He claims he's leading the merger. He's actually an intern. Mr. Harrison chuckled. Sounds like a go-getter. Or a fraud. He's also my ex-boyfriend who stole $50,000 from me and claims you personally mentored him. Silence on the line. Then, a low growl. He used my name. He tells everyone you two play golf on Sundays. I hate golf, Mr. Harrison said. What do you need, Scarlett? He's having a birthday party tomorrow. He thinks he's getting a promotion. I think it would be educational if the real CEO showed up to congratulate him on his success. Send me the address, Mr. Harrison said. I love a good party. Saturday arrived. I spent 3 hours getting ready. I didn't wear the modest, mom-like clothes Brad preferred. I wore a red dress. A dress that screamed power. It was fitted, tailored, and cost more than Brad's entire wardrobe. I wore my hair down, in loose, confident waves. I looked like a CEO. I drove to the Miller's house in the suburbs. It was a nice house, but clearly living beyond its means. The lawn was manicured, but the paint was peeling on the trim. Cars lined the driveway. I spotted Leonard's beat-up Honda and Pablo's truck. And then, tucked around the corner, I saw Liam's car. Good. He was here. I took the massive silver gift box out of my trunk. It was light, physically, but it carried the weight of a nuclear bomb. My heart was pounding, not with fear, but with the anticipation of a hunter springing a trap. I walked up the driveway. I could hear music and laughter inside. I paused at the door, took a deep breath, and rang the bell. Showtime. The door swung open, and I was hit with the smell of pot roast and heavy perfume. Linda stood there, holding a glass of Chardonnay. Her eyes scanned me up and down, lingering disapprovingly on the red dress. Oh, she said, her smile tight. You're here. That dress is a bit aggressive, isn't it? Hello to you too, Linda. I breezed past her, the gift box tucked under my arm. Happy birthday to Brad. The living room was crowded. About 20 people. Uncles, cousins, friends. And there in the center of it all was Brad. He was wearing a suit that was too shiny, holding court near the fireplace. He looked up, saw me, and for a split second, I saw genuine panic in his eyes. He hadn't actually expected me to show up. He thought I would just drop off the car key and leave. But then his eyes landed on the silver box. The panic replaced by greed. He excused himself from his cousins and walked over to me. He didn't hug me. He leaned in, his voice a hiss. You actually came, he said. I told you, no scenes. No scene, I promised, smiling dazzlingly. Just here to give you your gift. And celebrate your big news. Right, Brad straightened his tie, puffing out his chest. My promotion. And the baby, I added loudly. Brad choked on his drink. The what? Oh hush, I winked, tapping his arm playfully. Just kidding. Across the room, I saw Tiffany, his sister. She was lounging on the sofa I knew she couldn't afford, scrolling on her phone. She looked up and smirked at me. Hey Scarlett, she called out. Did you finally lose those 10 pounds Brad wanted you to lose? You look almost decent. I turned to her. Hello, Tiffany. I see you got the new bedroom set. How is it sleeping on my credit score? She frowned. What? Nothing, I turned away before she could process it. I made my way through the room. I felt eyes on me. I knew what Brad had told them. Crazy ex-stalker. Desperate. I found Grandma Betty in the corner, sitting in her wheelchair. Betty was 85, sharp as a tack, and the only person in this family who had ever been kind to me. Scarlett, she rasped, reaching out a hand. I didn't think you'd be foolish enough to come back to this circus. I took her hand. I'm just here to finish business, Betty. She pulled me closer. Her cloudy eyes looked intense. I saw him in your purse, she whispered. Last month. At the barbecue. I saw him take the necklace. I told Linda. She told me to shut my old trap. My heart squeezed. I know, Betty. Thank you. Give hell, darling, she winked. I moved to the drinks table. Liam was there, nursing a soda. He looked pale. Is he coming? I whispered. Mr. Harrison? Liam asked, his voice trembling. His assistant confirmed he's 5 minutes away. Good. Stick close to me. Brad clapped his hands loudly, demanding attention. Everyone, gather round, he shouted. Time for the speeches. The room quieted down. Linda rushed to stand next to her baby boy, beaming with pride. Brad's father, Ralph, stood silently in the back. Ralph was a beaten-down man who mostly did what Linda told him. First of all, Brad started, raising his glass. I want to thank you all for coming to celebrate me. It's been a huge year. Huge. He looked around the room, making eye contact with his admirers. As many of you know, I've been leading the merger for Meridian Dynamics. It's been hard work. Late nights. Business trips to Chicago and Paris. Paris. That was new. But it paid off. I'm expecting the official title of vice president on Monday. Applause broke out. Linda wiped a tear. That's my boy. And with that, Brad continued, his voice dripping with arrogance, comes the rewards. I'm looking at buying the lake house next month so Mom and Dad can retire in style. More applause. I stood there, clutching the silver box, marveling at how easily the lies rolled off his tongue. He believed them. He actually believed he was this person. And finally, Brad turned his gaze to me. It was patronizing, smug. I want to thank Scarlett. We've had our ups and downs. Mostly because she struggles to understand the pressure of a man in my position. Light laughter from the crowd. But she's here today to make a gesture. A gesture of apology and support. He pointed to the box in my hands. Babe, why don't you bring that over here? The room turned to me. This was it. The moment he thought he was getting a BMW key to flash in front of his friends. I walked to the center of the room. My heels clicked on the hardwood floor. Click. 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 I stopped right in front of him. Happy birthday, Brad, I said, my voice clear and projecting to the back of the room. You're right. You deserve exactly what's in this box. He reached for it, grinning like a shark. Open it, I said. Show everyone what a man of your stature has truly earned. He tore the ribbon off. He lifted the lid. And just as he looked inside, the doorbell rang. The timing could not have been more divine, if I had choreographed it with a stopwatch. Brad paused, the lid of the box half open. He looked annoyed at the interruption. Who is that? I told everyone 5 p.m. Linda fluttered toward the door. Probably the caterers with the extra champagne. I'll get it. Brad turned his attention back to the box. He reached inside, expecting the heavy weight of a car key fob. Instead, his hand met paper. He frowned. He pulled out the top sheet. It was the credit card statement, with the $852 Steakhouse charge highlighted in neon yellow, alongside the declined notice for the card he tried to use. What is this? He muttered, confused. He dug deeper. He pulled out the printout of the text messages he sent to his other girlfriend. The room was silent, watching. They were expecting a key. They were seeing papers. Is that the title to the car? Leonard asked from the back. No, I said loudly. It's the receipt for the dinner he stuck me with on Tuesday. And the receipts for the hotels he stayed at with a woman named Candy, while he was supposedly at work. Gasps rippled through the room. Brad's face went purple. Scarlett. What the hell is this? Is this some kind of sick joke? The only joke is your career, Brad, I said, keeping my voice ice cold. Mom. Brad yelled, looking toward the hallway. Get her out of here. But Linda didn't answer. Instead, we heard footsteps. Heavy, authoritative footsteps. Linda walked backward into the living room, looking pale. Behind her walked a man in a navy pinstripe suit, radiating so much wealth and power that the air in the room seemed to change pressure. It was Mr. Harrison. Brad froze. The papers in his hand trembled. He recognized the face. He had Googled him enough times to pretend he knew him. But seeing the billionaire CEO of your parent company in your living room is a very different experience. Mr. Harrison. Brad stammered. His voice cracked like a teenage boy's. The room went dead silent. Even Tiffany stopped chewing her gum. Bradley Miller, Mr. Harrison said, his voice deep and gravelly. He didn't smile. He looked around the tacky living room, then at the guests, and finally rested his eyes on Brad. I received an invitation. I was told there was a celebration for my golf partner. Brad went white. I don't play golf, son, Mr. Harrison said dryly. And I certainly don't have a regional director named Miller. Linda stepped forward, trying to salvage the situation with frantic politeness. Oh, there must be a misunderstanding. Brad is the vice president of marketing. He's leading the merger. Mr. Harrison laughed. It wasn't a nice laugh. The merger was completed 3 months ago. And according to my HR files, which my new CFO showed me. He gestured to me. All heads turned to me. Scarlett. Brad whispered. That's right, Mr. Harrison continued. Ms. Davis here is the newly appointed Chief Financial Officer of Vanguard Holdings. Which makes her your boss's boss's boss. I stepped forward, closing the distance between me and Brad. He looked like he was about to faint. You told everyone I was a bean counter, Brad, I said softly. You were right. I count beans. And I counted yours. You're missing a lot. I reached into the box he was still holding and pulled out the police report. This, I held it up for the room to see, is a police report for identity theft and grand larceny. $52,000 charged to credit cards opened in my name without my consent. I turned to Linda. Her hand flew to her throat, right to the diamond necklace. And that, I pointed a perfectly manicured finger at her neck, is my grandmother's diamond necklace. Stolen from my bedroom. Reported missing on Tuesday. Linda gasped and tried to cover the pendant with her hand, but it was too late. Everyone had seen it. Grandma Betty let out a loud, cackling laugh from her corner. Gotcha, she wheezed. Brad found his voice. It was a desperate, angry shriek. You're lying. She's lying. She's crazy. She planted all this. He lunged toward me, dropping the box. Papers scattered everywhere, evidence of his affairs, his debt, his lies covering the floor like confetti. Don't you touch her, Liam stepped forward. It was the bravest thing I'd ever seen him do. You're fired, Liam. Brad screamed. I'll have you fired. You can't fire anyone, Brad, I said calmly. Because you're an intern. And as of 5 minutes ago. I pulled a letter from my purse. You are terminated for gross misconduct, embezzlement, and fraud. Brad looked at the letter. Then at Mr. Harrison. Then at his parents. The illusion was shattering. The successful businessman facade was crumbling into dust. He looked at me with pure hatred. "You think you're so smart," he spat, sweat beading on his forehead. "You're nothing. You're just a lonely, old." "Careful," Mr. Harrison warned. "You're speaking to the woman who decides if we press charges, or just sue you into oblivion." Brad stopped. He looked at the police report in my hand. He realized this wasn't just a breakup. This was an execution. "Now," I said, holding out my hand. "Give me the necklace, Linda." The room held its breath. The room was so quiet you could hear the hum of the refrigerator from the kitchen. All eyes were glued to Linda's hand, which was clutching her throat as if she were trying to physically absorb the diamonds back into her skin. "Give me the necklace, Linda," I repeated. My voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. When you hold all the cards, you don't need to shout. Linda looked at Brad, desperation etched into every line of her heavy makeup. She was waiting for him to fix this. She was waiting for the lie that would make it all go away. "Brad? Tell her. Tell her you bought it. Tell her it's a misunderstanding." But Brad was frozen. He was staring at Mr. Harrison, who was currently inspecting a framed photo on the mantelpiece, a photo of Brad accepting an award that was clearly photoshopped. Brad opened his mouth, but only a squeak came out. "He can't tell you that," I said, stepping closer to Linda. "Because he stole it from my jewelry box 3 weeks ago. Along with my grandmother's vintage earrings, which I assume are in your jewelry box upstairs." Linda's face went ash gray. She took a stumbling step back. I didn't know. He said it was a bonus. He said he earned it." "He lied," I said simply. "Just like he lied about the promotion. Just like he lied about the car. Just like he lied about paying for this party. By the way, the caterer's outside. They just texted me. The credit card Brad gave them was declined. So unless you have $3,000 cash on hand, they're leaving with the champagne." A gasp went through the room. This was the social death blow. In this suburban neighborhood, having the caterers walk out was worse than a felony. Now, I held out my hand again, palm up. "The necklace. Unless you want me to add possession of stolen property to the police report Mr. Harrison is currently reading." Linda began to tremble. Her fingers fumbled with the clasp behind her neck. It was a pathetic sight. This woman who had spent 2 years criticizing my cooking, my clothes, and my career was now shaking like a leaf, undoing a clasp she never should have fastened. The tiny click of the jewelry unlocking echoed in the silence. She pulled it off. The diamonds caught the light of the chandelier, a chandelier I knew they bought on a payment plan. She dropped the necklace into my palm. It felt cold. "Thank you," I said. I pulled a jewelry pouch from my purse, I had come prepared, and slid the heirloom inside. "And the earrings?" "Upstairs," Linda whispered, defeated. "In the master bath." "I'll get them," Liam piped up from the corner. He moved toward the stairs and for the first time, Brad didn't yell at him. Brad didn't even look at him. Brad was watching his life disintegrate. "You ruined everything," Brad finally whispered. The sound was guttural, wet with tears and snot. "You ruined my birthday. You ruined my reputation. Are you happy?" I looked at him. Really looked at him. The shiny suit, the sweat dripping down his temple, the terror in his eyes. "I didn't ruin anything, Brad," I said. "I just turned on the lights. You're the one who made the mess. I was going to pay you back," he shouted, suddenly finding a burst of manic energy. He turned to the crowd, appealing to his aunts and cousins. "You guys know me. I'm a visionary. I have investments. I was going to pay her back with interest once the crypto market bounced back. She's just impatient. She's trying to emasculate me." Nobody moved. Nobody nodded. Even Tiffany, his loyal sister, was looking at her shoes. Investments. Mr. Harrison spoke up. He had finished looking at the photos and was now standing next to me, a silent pillar of authority. Son, according to the audit Ms. Davis performed on your work email, your investments consist of online gambling debts and a subscription to a get-rich-quick seminar. The room let out a collective, awkward exhale. However, I cut in, pulling another document from the silver box. I am a reasonable woman. I run finances for a living. I understand that mistakes happen. So I've prepared an option for you. Brad looked at me warily. What option? I don't want you to go to jail, Brad, I lied. I wanted him to rot, but I wanted my money more. Prison doesn't pay me back my $52,000. So my lawyer drafted this. I held up a thick staple-bound document. This is a confession of judgment and a repayment agreement, I explained, my voice projecting like I was in a boardroom. It states that you admit to identity theft and grand larceny. It states that you owe me $52,400 plus legal fees. It sets up a payment plan of $1,500 a month, garnished directly from whatever future wages you manage to earn. I slapped the document onto the coffee table. I pulled a Mont-Blanc pen from my blazer pocket and set it next to the paper. Sign it, I said. Sign it in front of these witnesses. Admit what you did. Agree to pay me back. And I won't press criminal charges today. Brad stared at the paper. $1,500 a month. I can't afford that. I don't even have a job anymore. Then I guess you better start selling things, I said, gesturing around the room. The TV. The stereo. That watch you're wearing. Or. I leaned in close. You can explain to the police officers who are currently 5 minutes away why you used a credit card in my name to buy a bedroom set for your sister. I looked at Tiffany. Did you know the furniture was stolen, Tiffany? Because receiving stolen goods is also a crime. Tiffany shrieked. I didn't know. He told me he won a contest. Take it back. I don't want it. The family was turning on each other. It was beautiful. Sign the paper, Brad. His father, Ralph, spoke for the first time. His voice was heavy, tired. Just sign the damn paper. Dad? Brad looked betrayed. She has the CEO of your company in our living room, son, Ralph said, rubbing his temples. It's over. Sign it before she takes the house, too. Brad looked at his mother. Linda was sobbing into a napkin, refusing to meet his eyes. He looked at his friends. Leonard and Pablo were backing toward the door, clearly trying to escape. With a shaking hand, Brad picked up the pen. He looked at me one last time, waiting for me to crack, waiting for me to say, just kidding, I love you, I'll forgive you. I stared back, stone cold. He bent down and signed. As the ink dried, I felt a weight lift off my chest that I hadn't realized I was carrying for 2 years. I picked up the contract, checked the signature, and handed it to Mr. Harrison to witness. Smart choice, Mr. Harrison said, signing his name with a flourish. Now, I said, putting the contract in my purse. Get out of my sight. This is my parents' house. Brad yelled, trying to regain some shred of dignity. You get out. Actually, a voice came from the hallway. We all turned. 2 uniformed police officers were standing in the doorway. We got a call about a disturbance, the older officer said. And we have a warrant for a Mr. Bradley Miller regarding the theft of a diamond necklace. Brad's face went white. He looked at me. You said if I signed, you wouldn't press charges. I smiled. It was the sharpest, coldest smile of my life. I said I wouldn't press charges for the identity theft and the credit card fraud, I corrected him. I never said anything about the necklace. That's a separate incident. And I filed that report 3 hours ago. The look of absolute betrayal on his face was worth every penny of that $852 dinner. The chaos that erupted in the Miller household was something straight out of a reality TV finale, but better, because it was real. "You tricked me!" Brad screamed, knocking a vase of fake flowers off the table. "You witch! You tricked me!" "Keep your hands where I can see them," the officer barked, stepping into the room. His hand rested on his taser. "He's a good boy," Linda wailed, throwing herself between Brad and the police. "He just made a mistake." He returned the necklace. "Look, she has it." "Ma'am, step aside," the officer ordered. "Possession is only part of the crime. Breaking and entering into Ms. Davis's safe box is another." I stood back, watching the scene unfold with Mr. Harrison. "You're ruthless, Scarlett," Mr. Harrison murmured, but there was a tone of admiration in his voice. "Remind me never to get on your bad side." "I learned from the best," I said, watching the officers cuff Brad. "Ow. Watch the suit." Brad whined as they pulled his arms behind his back. "This is Italian silk. It's polyester blend, Brad," I couldn't help but correct him one last time. "And you bought it at an outlet mall." They marched him toward the door. The party guests parted like the Red Sea, faces a mixture of horror and morbid curiosity. Leonard and Pablo had their phones out, recording. I knew those videos would be in the group chat before Brad even reached the patrol car. I followed them out onto the front lawn. It was a beautiful Saturday evening. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the driveway. And the neighbors were watching. Mrs. Kravitz from next door was standing by her hedges with a watering can, mouth agape. The kids playing street hockey had stopped. A jogger had slowed to a walk. Brad Miller, the man who claimed to own the neighborhood, the man who bragged about his status, was being frog-marched down his parents' driveway in handcuffs, blubbering like a toddler. "Mom! Call a lawyer. Call Uncle Jerry!" Brad shouted as they pushed him into the back of the cruiser. "Uncle Jerry is a divorce lawyer, you idiot!" Tiffany yelled from the porch. She looked more annoyed than concerned. "He can't help you with grand larceny." I walked down the driveway and stood by the police car window. The glass was rolled down. Brad looked up at me, his eyes red and puffy. "Why?" he whispered. "We had 2 years. Doesn't that mean anything?" I leaned down, resting my hands on the door frame. "It meant everything to me, Brad," I said softly. "That's why it hurt so much. But you didn't date me. You dated my wallet. You dated my patience. And you insulted me to make yourself feel big." I stood up straight. "A girl like me is a prize," I said, echoing his words from the restaurant. "And you just lost the lottery." The officer slammed the door. The engine roared to life. As the car pulled away, lights flashing against the twilight, I didn't feel sad. I didn't feel lonely. I felt light. I turned back to the house. The party was effectively over. Guests were scurrying to their cars, clutching their purses tight, avoiding eye contact with Linda, who was sitting on the front steps sobbing into her Chardonnay glass. Mr. Harrison was waiting for me by his town car. "Can I offer you a ride, Scarlett?" he asked. "I think you've done enough damage for one day." "One more thing," I said. I walked over to where Liam was standing by his car. He looked shell-shocked. "You okay?" I asked. Liam nodded slowly. I've never seen anything like that." "Is he really going to jail?" "Probably not for long," I admitted. "First offense, white-collar crime. He'll get probation, community service, maybe a short stint. But his record is stained forever. He'll never work in finance or marketing again." "Thank you," Liam said. "For clearing my name with the petty cash thing." "You cleared your own name, Liam. You just needed someone to stand next to you." I handed him a business card. Report to my office on Monday. The real office. I need an assistant who actually knows where the bodies are buried. And I hear you're looking for a new job. Liam stared at the card, a slow smile spreading across his face. Yes, ma'am. I'll be there. I walked back to Mr. Harrison's car. As I slid into the leather seat, real leather, smelling of success and integrity, I looked back at the house one last time. Linda was yelling at Ralph. Tiffany was on the phone, probably trying to return the furniture. The for sale sign that would inevitably appear on that lawn in a few months wasn't there yet, but I could see it in my mind's eye. The debt I had just legally bound Brad to would likely force him to liquidate everything, and his parents would act as guarantors to keep him out of prison eventually. They would bleed money to save their golden boy, just as they always had. But they wouldn't bleed mine. Where to, Ms. Davis? The driver asked. Take me to the best steakhouse in the city, I said, leaning back. I believe I have a dinner to redo. And this time, I'm ordering the lobster for myself. The weeks following the birthday bust, as Chloe affectionately called it, were a whirlwind of legal paperwork and emotional housekeeping. I didn't just scrub Brad from my life, I fumigated. I hired a cleaning crew to deep clean my apartment, removing every trace of his existence. The lingering smell of his cheap body spray. Gone. The dents in the couch cushions. Replaced with new, firm pillows. I changed the locks, installed a security system, and most satisfyingly, bought a brand new PlayStation 5 for myself. I don't even play video games that much, but looking at it sitting on my entertainment center, paid for with my money, felt like a trophy. Brad's legal proceedings moved fast. Faced with the mountain of evidence and the signed confession, his public defender advised him to take a plea deal. He pled guilty to 1 count of grand larceny, and 1 count of identity fraud. Because he had no prior criminal record, lucky him, the judge was lenient on jail time, but heavy on restitution. He got 3 years of probation, 500 hours of community service, and a court order to repay me every single cent of the $52,400, plus legal fees. If he missed a payment, he went to jail. Simple as that. I didn't go to the sentencing. I sent Chloe. I had better things to do, like running a company. My first week as CFO was grueling but exhilarating. Mr. Harrison made a point of introducing me to the board not just as a financial expert, but as someone with uncompromising integrity and a killer instinct. I brought Liam in as my executive assistant. It turned out that when he wasn't being bullied by a narcissist, Liam was brilliant. He was organized, sharp, and fiercely loyal. We made a formidable team. About 2 months later, I received a large envelope in the mail. No return address, but the handwriting was spidery and familiar. It was a card from Grandma Betty. Inside was a handwritten note, "Dear Scarlett, the house has been quiet lately. Linda is selling her jewelry to pay for Brad's lawyer fees. Ralph is working overtime. Brad is living in the basement again. He cries a lot. It's annoying. I wanted you to know that I changed my will. That boy isn't getting a dime. I'm leaving my estate to the cat shelter. Keep your chin up, darling. You were always too good for this circus. Love, Betty." I laughed out loud in my office. I pinned the card to my bulletin board. But the real closure came on a rainy Tuesday in November. I was walking to get lunch with Liam. We were heading to a sandwich shop near the park. As we waited at the crosswalk, a city maintenance truck rumbled past and stopped near a clogged storm drain. A crew of guys in orange vests jumped out to clear the debris. They were soaked, muddy, and miserable. "Hey," Liam nudged me. "Look." I looked. There, holding a shovel, struggling with a pile of wet autumn leaves and mud, was Brad. He looked different. He had gained weight. His hair was thinning. The arrogance was gone, replaced by a slump of exhaustion. He was shouting at one of the other guys, probably trying to boss him around, but the guy just shoved him back. Brad slipped in the mud, landing hard on his backside. I watched him struggle to get up. I remembered the man who had sat across from me at the Gilded Steer, sipping $200 wine and telling me I was lucky to be seen with him. I remembered the man who told me I was old, ugly, and a placeholder. Now he was literally playing in the dirt while I stood on the corner in a trench coat that cost more than his car, about to sign off on a merger that would reshape the industry. He looked up. Through the rain and the traffic, our eyes met. He froze. He held his shovel like a shield. I didn't smile. I didn't wave. I didn't flip him off. I just felt nothing. The anger had burned out. The hate had faded. All that was left was indifference. He was just a stranger with a shovel. A bad investment I had finally written off. Scarlett. Liam asked. Do you want to go somewhere else? No, I said, turning away from Brad. I'm hungry. Let's get lunch. I stepped off the curb, moving forward, leaving him behind in the mud where he belonged. Life, I realized, isn't about the grand moments of drama. It's about the quiet moments of peace that follow. It's been 6 months since the birthday party. My credit score has recovered fully. The debt is gone, paid off by the monthly garnishments from Brad's meager paycheck, and a lump sum his parents coughed up to keep him from violating probation. Every time I see that deposit hit my account, I buy myself fresh flowers. It's a little ritual. The Brad tax, I call it. I'm sitting in my favorite cafe now, typing this out. The sun is streaming through the window, warming my face. I'm not dating anyone right now. And honestly, I love it. Brad made me feel like being single at 34 was a death sentence. He made me feel like I was expiring fruit. But without him weighing me down, I've realized I'm just entering my prime. I have my career. I have my friends. I have my dignity. Yesterday, I ran into Vanessa, my friend who Brad claimed had begged him to date me. We grabbed drinks. You know, Vanessa said, swirling her martini. I never begged him. I actually told him, she's way out of your league, don't mess this up. He just heard what he wanted to hear. He lived in a fantasy world, I agreed. I just evicted him from it. So she smirked. What about Liam? I see the way he looks at you. I smiled, looking down at my coffee. Liam is great. He's kind. He remembers how I take my coffee. He actually listens when I talk about work. We went to dinner last week. Just as friends, mostly. Mostly, Vanessa teased. Well, take your time. You earned it. I did earn it. I think back to that night at the restaurant often. Not with pain anymore, but with gratitude. It sounds crazy, I know. Be grateful to the man who humiliated you. But if Brad hadn't been so cruel, if he hadn't said those exact words, a girl like you should be grateful, I might have stayed. I might have bought him that car. I might have married him. I might have spent the next 20 years shrinking myself to fit into his small, fragile ego. His cruelty was the catalyst. It was the splash of cold water that woke me up from a 2-year coma. He thought he was discarding trash. He didn't realize he was setting a diamond free from a lump of coal. I finish my coffee and check my watch. I have a board meeting in 30 minutes. I stand up, smoothing out my skirt. I catch my reflection in the window. I don't see a placeholder. I don't see someone who is aging or ugly. I see a woman who walked through fire and came out holding the flamethrower. I see a woman who knows exactly what she's worth and has the receipts to prove it. I walk out onto the busy street, the city noise embracing me. My phone buzzes. It's a text from Liam. Liam, good luck with the board meeting. Also, I found that vintage wine you were looking for. Saved a bottle for you. I smile, typing back a quick thank you. To anyone reading this who feels stuck. To anyone who has been told they aren't enough. To anyone who is supporting someone who drains them dry. Check your receipts. Check your worth. And don't be afraid to cause a scene. Sometimes the best thing you can do is let the bridge burn, so you can see your path clearly by the light of the flames. My name is Scarlett Davis. I am a CFO. I am a survivor. And I am finally, truly, free. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for listening to my story. I am so grateful for you. If you made it to the end, please comment the letter A below. This tells me you are a strong, resilient person who values the truth, and you're different from the rest. If you have any thoughts on Brad's karma, or my new life, write them down. I read every single one. And please, click the next video on the screen to hear more stories of justice and strength. We are in this together.